2006 election?
I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but I can say that I honestly don't have a recollection of the presentation at all.
Well, I assume that given your past experience, you've sat through PowerPoint presentations before.
I have said
and that during PowerPoint presentations, information is projected in slides, and usually those slides are reviewed by the person making the presentation to reinforce verbally the visual images that are displayed on the slides.
Oftentimes they
Is that your general understanding of what took place on this date?
Yes, I believe that is true. I believe there were PowerPoint slides, and I believe Scott Jennings did speak.
The committee has obtained a copy of the presentation that Mr. Jennings gave at your office, and I'd like to ask you about the topics that he discussed with the staff. And at this time, I'd ask the staff to put up slide 555, which is the first cover slide for the PowerPoint presentation, showing that this was prepared by the White House Political Office headed by Karl Rove. That's what the cover slide says. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm looking at the one you gave me.
And then let's look at slide 578. This is a slide that has at the top 2008 House targets, top 20. Do you see that?
I do.
And there can be no dispute from the content of this slide that this slide is depicting Republican targets that identify Democratic seats that are vulnerable in 2006. Isn't that what it says?
I'm reading, it says House targets top 20.
2008, not 2006.
Yes.
Okay.
And it shows district by district the individuals, what the percentage of that district was in the 2004 election, and what percentage that particular Democratic candidate received in the 2006 election. Correct?
Yes, it appears. I honestly, I've not seen this chart until yesterday. I don't remember. I mean, I really, truly don't remember seeing this chart until yesterday when I tried to dig it up. And I have to say, I don't know what the explanation was that accompanied this. I truly do not remember this part of the presentation.
Well, you're familiar with what the word target means, right?
I think we could say that I'm one right now, yes.
Yes, and what this means is that the Republicans are trying to target these seats to win them back in 2008. That was what was discussed at the presentation.
I appreciate your interpretation of that.
I'm going to yield for 1 minute.
Yes.
I just want to verify, did you know that your office supplied this chart to us?
Yes, I did, but I did not review the actual data. There was different groups that were involved in this. Since this was not my meeting, I did not convene it. I didn't run the agenda of it. I didn't invite Speaker Jennings, Scott Jennings, to the meeting. I actually didn't have any involvement in it. The group that was involved in that, they prepared that submission for you.
You were just there, though.
I attended the meeting. Yes, I was there,
Okay.
and I.
Well, I'm going to let
right.
Mr. Braley
Yes.
continue.
You would agree that a reasonable interpretation of this slide is that it was a political attempt to try to target the top 20 Democratic candidates for defeat in 2008.
No, I would not say that. I would say that this is a slide that says 2008 House targets top 20. I do not want to try to speculate on what was intended by Mr. Jennings on the slide. I really think you have to ask him.
Well, I think the reasonable people interpreting and viewing this material can probably get a pretty good understanding of what Mr. Jennings was doing there. The next slide I'd like to talk about is slide 579. This is a slide that has as a heading 2008 House GOP Defense. Have you seen this slide before?
I saw it yesterday is when I remember. I'm sure I possibly saw it during the meeting. I don't remember it during our meeting, but honestly, as I said before, I don't really remember the PowerPoint presentation very clearly during that meeting.
And this slide lists a number of vulnerable Republican House seats that are being targeted for protection in the 2008 congressional elections. Isn't that a reasonable conclusion that you can draw from this slide?
Congressman, I'll accept your explanation of it.
And then if we look at slide 581, this slide has the caption Battle for the Senate 2008 and identifies potential pickup opportunities. One category described as Republican offense listing 6 states, one category described as Republican defense, listing 8 states, and then listing other non-competitive states. Do you agree that a reasonable person interpreting what's contained on this slide could conclude that these are targeted Senate seats that the Republican White House is trying to protect or pick up?
Senator, I will accept your interpretation of this slide.
Congressman. I am
promotion
very proud of my title as Congressman, so thank you.
Demotion. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not even going to get into that, guys.
Can you tell us what, if anything, these slides have to do with the GSA's core purpose of procuring supplies and managing federal buildings?
This brown bag luncheon, I believe, has been mischaracterized. This is a meeting that is a team-building meeting that is hosted by our White House liaison, a GSA employee, a non-career employee, and it's hosted every month. I try to attend whenever I can. Occasionally I realize I'm late either coming in or leaving early, but I do try to be supportive. We look upon this as team building. We have had a variety of speakers who speak in whatever their particular area of expertise is. That's what we do in these luncheons. I'm trying to build a superior management team at GSA, and any kind of team building activities that I can do.
With all due respect, Ms. Doan, I don't believe you answered my question, which was to ask what these slides had to do with the GSA's mission. I think the answer to my question is clear. This was a partisan political briefing. It occurred on GSA property during work hours and had nothing to do with the GSA mission. You identified team building as one of the purposes of this meeting. Can you explain to the taxpayers of this country how holding this partisan political briefing helped with team building?
As I had said a little bit earlier, this is a brown bag lunch. It occurs on the lunch hour of our non-career employees. This is not my slide presentation, and I really do ask you, if you need to have an accurate interpretation of what that PowerPoint slide presentation means, please, I would ask you to ask Mr. Jennings. This is his product, and he was a guest at our meeting.
Well, when the presentation begins with the White House Office of Political Affairs on the cover slide, and the slide presentation has multiple references to the Republicans' vaunted 72-hour get-out-the-vote effort and its impact on a host of different congressional races, which is what's contained on the other slides that are in this presentation, I think the American taxpayers have a very good reason to wonder whether the only team that was being helped during this briefing was the Republican Party team. The Federal Hatch Act says you can't use the workplace to engage in team building for any political party. You've suggested that this wasn't intended to have a partisan purpose in your presentations, and yet the committee has been informed by multiple sources that after Mr. Jennings finished his presentation, you took the floor, thanked him, and then posed a question to the entire group of participants. And according to those sources, you stated, how can we use GSA to help our candidates in the next election? Now, reminding you that you are under oath, can you tell the committee whether, in fact, you did make that statement?
I do know that I'm under oath, and I will tell you that honestly and absolutely, I do not have a recollection of actually saying that.
The committee has interviewed and deposed witnesses who participated in the briefing, and these were not the type of off-the-record discussions the White House is currently recommending in the Attorney General's investigation. One of those, Justin Bush, is a Republican political appointee at GSA, and he was quoted as saying that your comment was, how can we use different GSA projects, building openings, and the like to further aid other Republicans? Do you have any reason to doubt Mr. Bush's memory?
I have told you I do not have any recollection of saying that. But I do know, I have been brought to understand that there is actually a difference of opinion among the attendees about what exactly was said.
Well, another attendee, Jennifer Milliken, is the Deputy Director of Communications at GSA and also a Republican appointee. She stated that you said, quote, how we could help candidates. Do you remember saying that?
I have no recollection of saying that.
Do you disagree with your own press person that that comment was made by you?
Congress